It started with a single, venomous sentence spat out by a child who didn't know better but was taught worse. "Your lawn's almost as dark as your wife," the 10-year-old sneered, his Spider-Man mask tilted back on his freckled face. He wasn't looking at me, but at the pristine green sweep of our front yard in Maplewood, Virginia yard I'd spent years perfecting. That boy, Tommy, didn't invent the cruelty. It was a lesson absorbed from the festering resentment of his parents' home next door. That one sentence, flung on a crisp October morning in 2025, was the spark that ignited a firestorm, threatening to burn our lives to ash. My name is James Carter, and this is the story of how my wife, Lena, and I fought to reclaim our peace from a family of liars and a system rigged against us. Lena and I had lived in our cozy two-story home on Elm Street for 15 years. She was a structural engineer, a woman whose brilliance and grace lit up every room. Her deep brown skin and cascading locks seemed to offend our new neighbors, the Harrisons, who moved in 6 months earlier. Diane Harrison, a woman whose bitterness seemed to weigh her down, was the matriarch. Her husband, Frank, a local sheriff's deputy, carried himself with a swagger that screamed unchecked power. Their son, Tommy, was a miniature version of their worst traits, parroting their entitlement in his red sneakers and superhero costumes. From the moment their U-Haul scraped our prized magnolia tree without so much as an apology, they treated Maplewood like their personal fiefdom, complaining about mailbox colors or driveway gravel. But their real venom was reserved for Lena, a black woman who dared to drive a restored navy blue Mustang, a car she'd rebuilt with her own hands. That fateful afternoon, I watched from our living room as Lena stepped onto the porch in a teal sundress, her keys jingling. She was headed to a site inspection, her Mustang gleaming in the driveway. Then the Harrisons appeared, a trio of malice. Diane, in a faded gray hoodie, stormed across her lawn like a general. Frank followed, arms crossed, his khaki shorts straining against his bulk. Tommy trailed behind, scowling with a practiced menace chilling for a child. They planted themselves at the edge of our property. "We need the car," Diane barked, pointing at the Mustang. It wasn't a question, it was a command, dripping with entitlement. Lena froze, her hand on the car door. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady but edged with disbelief. "The car," Diane snapped. "Our SUV's at the shop, and we're driving to my brother's in Raleigh. You're not doing anything important, so we'll borrow it for a few days." The audacity was staggering. Lena's work, her property, her very existence were dismissed as trivial. I could see her processing the insult, the racial undertone screaming through Diane's words. "No," Lena said firmly. "This is my car." Diane's face twisted into a snarl, her pale cheeks flushing red. "What did you say?" she screeched, stepping onto our driveway. Tommy mimicked her, fists clenched. Frank just smirked, his silence a weapon. "You selfish," Diane spat a slur, her finger jabbing inches from Lena's face. "After all we've put up with, living next to you people." The noise, the attitude. I was already moving, shoving open the front door. "Get away from my wife," I shouted, striding toward them. "Get off our property." Frank's smirk vanished, replaced by a cold glare. "Stay out of this," he growled, his deputy's authority lacing every word. But Diane was the chaos engine. "She assaulted me," she screamed, clutching her chest though Lena hadn't moved. "She threatened me. I'm calling the cops." Before I could blink, Diane was on her phone, shrieking about a violent woman attacking her. Tommy chanted, "She hurt Mommy. Arrest her." It was a grotesque performance, and Frank, the director, stood ready to play his part. Within 90 seconds, a sheriff's cruiser, Frank's own, oared up, lights flashing. He slipped into his role as deputy, murmuring to his partner, a wiry young officer named Kyle, who eyed Lena with prejudged suspicion. "Sir, go inside," Frank ordered me, his badge now a shield. "Like hell," I shot back, standing by Lena, who was silent, her face etched with horrified disbelief. Diane wailed to Kyle, claiming Lena had shoved her and threatened her life, pointing to her shoulder 5 feet from where Lena stood. Tommy nodded. "I saw it. She's bad." It was a lie so polished it could only have been rehearsed. Frank turned to Lena. "Ma'am, hands behind your back. You're under arrest for assault and threats." The world stopped. "This is insane," I roared. "You're her husband. This is a conflict of interest." Kyle's hand hovered over his taser. "Calm down, or you're next." "Don't," Lena whispered, touching my arm. Her eyes held a weary strength, urging me to fight another day. She turned, hands behind her, and the handcuffs clicked should a sound that shattered my heart. Frank yanked her arms roughly, a flash of pain crossing her face as he marched her to the cruiser. Diane watched, smirking, her heart condition miraculously gone. "See, Tommy," she cooed. "That's what happens to people who don't share." As the cruiser pulled away, I stood frozen, the silence heavier than any noise. Lena's Mustang sat in the driveway, a mocking symbol of their greed. I vowed then to tear down their lies, no matter the cost. The sheriff's station was a fluorescent maze of apathy. My statement to Kyle was a formality, my truth drowned by Frank's badge. The next morning's arraignment was worse. Lena, shackled in a gray jumpsuit, looked exhausted but defiant. The prosecutor, a smug man in a cheap suit, painted her as a danger, citing Frank's report of her aggression and a fabricated claim of unregistered guns. Bail was denied. 3 weeks in jail for refusing to hand over her car. The judge's gavel was a cell door slamming shut. I found a lawyer in a smoky Richmond office. Walter Hayes was a grizzled veteran of lost causes, his desk buried under case files. He listened to my story, his silence a test. "They're not just framing her," he finally said. "They're breaking you both. This is about power." He filed a motion to reconsider bail, attaching proof of our stable lives, Lena's engineering licenses, our mortgage, letters from friends. It was denied, but Walter called it a signal. We weren't backing down. I became an investigator, scouring for cracks in the Harrisons' fortress. Our security cameras were sabotage static at the exact moment of the confrontation. Neighbors, intimidated by Frank, refused to talk. One, a retired mechanic named Ed, whispered, "I saw it, James." She didn't touch Diane. "But Frank's been tailing my son's car. I can't testify." Despair gnawed at me during jail visits. Lena was thinner, her light dimming, but she urged me to fight. One evening, Walter shifted my focus. "The boy, Tommy. He's their weak link. Kids absorb everything. He's not just parroting, Leisha's seen their secrets." I set up a telephoto lens in our upstairs window, watching Tommy. His Spider-Man games were a facade, reenacting his parents' narrative, Lena as the villain, his family as heroes. One Saturday, while Diane watched TV and Frank was out, Tommy slipped into their rusty backyard shed. After 20 minutes, he emerged with a battered cigar box, glancing nervously at the house. He buried it behind a holly bush, his movements furtive. That night, at 2 a.m., I crept over the fence, heart pounding. I dug up the box, its lid scrawled with Tommy's stuff and marker. Inside were no toys, but a chilling collection, a faded photo of a neighbor's missing terrier, a shard of green ceramic, a rusted keychain, and crayon drawings. One showed Frank, badge prominent, standing over a fallen figure labeled Old Man Pete, a local widower hit by a car months earlier. Another depicted Frank smashing a green bowl. The keychain bore the initials of a barista, Sarah, who vanished last spring. This wasn't just about Lena. The Harrisons were a cancer, their secrets buried in a child's box. I photographed everything, knowing the box itself was inadmissible. Walter devised a plan, an anonymous letter to the county DA, claiming a mechanic saw Frank's SUV repaired suspiciously after Pete's hit-and-run. We mailed it from a post office an hour away, a torpedo aimed at Frank's lies. Weeks of waiting followed, hope fading as the Harrisons acted untouched. Lena's spirit waned in jail, the system grinding her down. Then, a county sedan appeared, detectives questioning Pete. The next day, they canvassed our street. That evening, I saw Frank and Diane arguing furiously, their confidence cracking. Walter escalated, contacting an FBI friend in the Public Integrity Unit. We argued Frank's pattern hit-and-run, fraud. Lena's false arrest was a civil rights violation. The keychain linked to Sarah's disappearance was our trump card, shared only as a photo. The FBI agent, a no-nonsense woman, took it seriously, warning us to stay silent. The final blow came unexpectedly. Tommy, unraveling under his parents' stress, tore apart his action figures. That night, Frank dug frantically by the holly bush, searching for the box. His panic was palpable. He knew it was gone. The next day, sheriff's cruisers tailed me, a desperate intimidation tactic. I documented it, feeding it to Walter, who passed it to the FBI. The DA's warrant for Frank's SUV uncovered fibers matching Pete's coat. Simultaneously, the FBI raided the Harrisons' home, finding an unregistered gun and Sarah's keychain in the shed. Frank was arrested for murder, hit-and-run, and corruption, Diane for accessory charges. Tommy, tearful and costumeless, was taken by social services, a victim of his parents' rot. The prosecutor dropped Lena's charges that afternoon, calling it an inconvenience. I picked her up from the detention center, our embrace a lifeline. At home, we passed the Harrisons' dark house, police tape across the door. Frank was convicted on all counts, Diane took a plea, and their precinct faced a sweeping investigation. We won a massive settlement from the city, but the real victory was their public disgrace. One spring day, Lena, in a coral dress, sketched a new library on our porch. A moving truck cleared the Harrisons' belongings, their shadow gone. Tommy's cruel words echoed in my mind, but he was wrong. The darkness was theirs, not Lena's. Our lawn, our love, our truth had prevailed. What do you think about this story? Have you ever faced injustice or seen power abused? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss how we confront cruelty and fight for what's right. Your voice matters.